Thank you, sir. Thank you, Vijay Srinivas, sir. And thank you to all the ACFE Hyderabad board members, Sharat sir, Sharma sir, and Radhakrishna sir, and everyone for organizing this wonderful conference and giving me this opportunity to speak in this conference. So I'm going to talk about on an interesting subject of ethical dimensions around trustworthy AI. I'm just passing here for a second, and I hope my screen is the presentation is visible to everyone.
Yes, yes,
Could you please
clearly,
come?
clear.
Thank you so much. Uh, so the next 45 minutes, I would be focusing on this topic of ethical dimensions for trustworthy AI, right? So, as everyone knows, artificial intelligence is the most spoken topic in the past decade, and it has highly evolved. And a lot of products and services that we use in the real world. So, previously, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about some scientific experiments and things like that. And it doesn't touch your day in and day out life, right? Now, artificial intelligence touches the day in and day out life of people, and since it touches in, what are the kind of challenges from the ethical angle? And again, if there is going to be something wrong, what is going to be the angle from the investigator angle also, right? That is a basic thing which I want to kind of discuss in today's session. And of course, to begin with, again, all the opinions and the views I make during this presentation are all my personal views, and it doesn't represent the views of my current organization or existing organizations and other older organizations as well, right? And to sketch out this topic, right, an interesting topic. So this is the agenda we have. Let's quickly delve into the world of AI. What are the various AI applications which are there in real world and which we are using knowingly or unknowingly? And then what are the ethical issues around artificial intelligence? And what is a trustworthy AI? What is called trustworthy AI? And what is a framework around trustworthy AI? And again, if we are developing products and solutions around artificial intelligence, what is the system lifecycle of AI? And I have got a couple of interesting case studies where AI is predominantly used and what can go wrong and how to kind of solve those problems. And finally, a good summary of all those points and what we should consider in future if we are planning to use AI products and solution. So that's going to be the agenda for the next 40 minutes, right? Quickly going into the world of AI, right? So it is very interesting, right? We started to watch movies like Matrix in the past to understand what is artificial intelligence and how robots can take over us, right? So I think this is a very kind of a dire statement. Like, will we live into the future where missions are as intelligent or frighteningly more so than humans? So the missions being more intelligent than humans, right? So this is a common concern. Right now, we are looking into it. The way the AI is progressing and the world of AI is right. So this is what we are coming into the angle. So if machines becomes more intelligent than human, what are you going to do about it, right? So let's look into the angle. And again, AI is an evolution which cannot be stopped by a single button or cannot be resumed by a single button. It is an evolution and it has its own advantages and disadvantages as well. So let's look into how AI is kind of impacting our day-to-day life. So where and all AI plays you a key role, right? So AI is there in your smartphones for sure, and a lot of apps you are using, AI is inbuilt into those apps. Security and surveillance, it is heavily used in motion detector cameras, video analytics. You have AIs and social media platforms. I need not say about it. It completely runs on AI as a kind of a core engine. And then your navigation systems, your maps, your e-commerce portals, they collect a huge amount of data. They see your patterns, they analyze your patterns. Banking and financial sector has whole bunch of data and what they do about that data. Autonomous vehicles, which are now reality, which we talked about as a kind of a imagination, but autonomous vehicles are now reality. And then the smarter homes, the devices and gadgets which make our homes smarter. So all these areas, AIs impact our life day in and day out. It's not like we live in a kind of an alienated, and AI has been only done in the research labs. It is already done in the research labs, and right now we have products and services which run around us, which have the power of AI, right? And what AI can do to us, right? A very important thing, why we are going behind AI. So AI helps you to do a deep learning concept. So deep learning helps in improving the customer journey. It helps you to give you a tailor-made products and solutions. So deep learning tries to understand the problem. It tries to learn so much into it. It understands the pattern so that it can make informed decisions, or it can complete repeatable activities. Facial recognition, very much talked about it, used in securities and other spaces where facial recognition is there. Automating tasks, this is very important. All human manual tasks which are like low priority and are very repeatable in nature, which can be easily automated by AI using bots and other technologies. Data ingestion, like so much of data is around us. How we are learning from the data, the world of data analytics. Cloud computing, we are having cloud everywhere, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and what we learn out of that. And quantum computing, a very interesting research topic where we are trying to increase the computing power and try to break up the cryptography. So a lot of things are going on in quantum computing. And of course, chatbots. So everyone at any point of our life in the last few years, we could have encountered a situation with a bot. So bot would be answering your query. So chatbots. So these are the interesting features of AI, which makes humanity, and it solves a lot of business problems. So that's the reason why we are going behind AI, right? So it helps you to solve the problem quickly, and it can complete your repeatable task. So which are the very common advantages when we go to artificial intelligence. Moving on towards the AI applications, right? What are the various applications which are formed using AI? So natural language processing, which is more in terms of understanding your language, what you speak, what you write, do conversion. So all your uh, assistants, right? The digital virtual assistants, like you have like Siri or Google Assist, they have the capability to understand the natural language processing. And ML, machine learning, understanding a chunk bit of a code and trying to understand the data around it. And computer vision, how to kind of all your VR and AR augmented realities, speech recognition, mission translations, robotics used in manufacturing industries and other industries, decision support systems. It might start with your traffic signal. It can end up anywhere. Predictive analytics, what can happen and what can go wrong. Expert systems, autonomous cars, intelligent chatbots responding to your queries, automatic scheduling of tasks. So these are the various applications, real world applications where artificial intelligence can play a very key role, and it can help you to solve those business problems. Moving ahead, where we are seeing real world AI implementation. So the real world AI implementation is already seen in the area of gaming. So you take up any game like Far Cry or PUBG or whatever game you talk about, AI is the reality. They understand the players, they understand the players' patterns, how they kind of play around the game, put challenges around top of it. So everything comes with the AI background. And your virtual assistants, as I told about, Siri, Alexa, or Cortana from Windows, chatbots for customer relationship management, right? A customer tech support, or a kind of a support which we are offering in websites. Entertainment like YouTube, Netflix, where they try to understand your pattern, the genres you like, the movies or the media, what you want to watch. So that particular learning is being done in AI. And finally, automobiles and Tesla. I think Tesla, I would say Tesla is not a car; it is a computer, right? Even though it has got four wheels, so it is so much dependent on a computer mission. It tries to learn your driving pattern, the way the car is structured, and if there are any issues, automatic reporting to the manufacturer. So everything revolves around the intelligence of AI, and these are the very practical scenarios which we see day in and day out, where AI is being built in all the application platforms, which heavily supports the business use case and helps the user to understand and create better informed decisions, or provide a better service to the end customers. Right. So these are the various applications of AI which we saw. Now let's kind of little bit understand what are the various types of artificial intelligence, right? So where artificial intelligence is being deployed, how it has been categorized. The first type is reactive AI. Reactive AI is nothing but you have a you have a case or an incident or a scenario which occurs. For that particular scenario, what would be the response, right? What would be the response, right? So for example, if I go left, what is your response? If I go right, so based on each step or each kind of an incident which you call out, what is your response come up in the reactive AI. And the next AI is the limited memory AI, which is generally used in the autonomous car. And again, there you kind of little bit program all the possible scenarios, right hand, left hand, motion detector cameras, have something in your memory, do some learning, deep learning into it. And again, it kind of it is a more mature model where it can take a decision, right? For example, an autonomous car driving in the road, and if it sees a wall or a hurdle, it can sense it and it can immediately apply the brake and stop the car, right? And that is what a limited memory AI, where it has got the programming configured into it, the various use cases configured into it, and it can take an informed decision in the programming to kind of reach a business outcome or a result. The next AI is the theory of mind, right? Theory of mind is something like uh, what would be an user action, right? What would be an user action to a specific scenario? Particularly, this theory of mind is used in the area of gaming. So if you see the games, the old games what we play, right, like a chess game which we played in the past, or your current games like Far Cry or PUBG, where you simulate the scenario of each and every user, right? Where a kind of a scenario is proposed to you, the user or the gamer solves the problem, and after he solves the problem, what is the next challenge you are going to post? So it thinks over the theory of minds or the next moves, and this is considered as a biggest evolution in AI where we are headed into it. And the fourth level is the self-awareness, which is the most mature model of the type of the AI, where when you try to build robots like the humanoid robots, where you put in all the intelligence, the human intelligence, including the emotional intelligence, including the Asimov rules, and making sure that the robot is equivalent to a man. Of course, it's not very equivalent to a mankind, but how you kind of make the robot self-aware. So this is the place where we are going. So from smaller business problems like reactive AI to a limited memory where you focus on scenarios and the theory of mind, what goes in the back of the mind, and finally the self-aware where you try to equate directly to a human. So whatever AI products and solutions we use will be categorized in these areas. And depending upon which area it is there, the intelligence and the other features which are built into the products and solutions are based on these types of AI. So you have reactive AI, you have limited memory, you have theory of mind, and you have got self-aware AI. So moving across, so we saw about what is AI, what are the various applications of AI, and how it kind of goes about it. So it sounded very interesting and fascinating, and it helped the humankind to solve the complex problem, and it is making our lives easy. But what are the problems, the background problems in it, right? So right now, I think what we have seen in the world of technology is like we learn the world of technology as technology itself. What are the building blocks of technology, programming languages, and other stuff? But we kind of fail to understand the humanity angle which is being used in the technology, or if technology is going to interact with humans, what is the humanity angle around that? That we are missing it actually. So that's the reason why even if you see in Indian course curriculum and all, we focus more on science and technology, but if we forget to add the angle of humanity, and the angle of humanity is creating a lot of issues now, which we have to understand. So these are the various ethical issues which I would present when we consider the artificial intelligence solution. The first thing is ethical issues about the unemployment. So these AI solutions bring out a vast range of automation. So it can avoid a normal human repetitive task, a lower end task. So will it create employment? So when it creates unemployment, what is going to be the problem? So this is the first ethical issue dimension. The second dimension is the inequality. So the products and solutions in AI which we offer, whether it is available to every human beings or everyone, or it is only available for the rich people, right? So that is the inequality class. It's not about communism, but it is more of whether the products and solutions reaches all the customers and all the grades of people. And then the humanity, right? The humanity angle. So will it so when we talk to a human being as a person to person, we have our own cultures and values. We respect the person, we kind of talk to them nicely, politely, kind of a thing. Whether the mission can replicate that. So that is a humanity angle. And again, evil genies, which is very important, as in every world there is good and bad. So if something is bad configured on it, what will be the happen problem? And artificial stupidity. Artificial stupidity is like, it is, even though it is kind of solving the human problem exactly like a human, it cannot be a human, because human has got one more level of inbuilt intelligence which cannot be replicated across all use cases of AI. So if you fail to configure one use case, then it will react as a stupid thing, right? So that is the artificial stupidity. Racist robot, again, robots are also built by human beings, right? And it will have all the biases what a human being also has it. So if there is having a racial bias, then you will produce the racial racist robots. And then security, the main angle, right? If something happens wrong, what will be the consequence, what will be the damage, and whether the damage can be repaired or not. So that is the security angle. And finally, on the singularity, right? Whether we stay control of that particular system, or the complexity of what we are dealing with, and what are the rights of the robot. So how does human treat it? If it's a robot, okay, it can operate 24 hours. It doesn't create a trade union by itself. It doesn't do a strike kind of a thing. But again, are we over exploiting the resources, or are we over exploiting the robots and other missions for our own benefit? How are we going to kind of evolve around that? That is nothing but the robot rights. So these ethical issues have become a very talking point, and a lot of companies who come up with AI products and solutions talk about the whims and fancies of the products. But again, in the background, these ethical issues are becoming more and more pressing, where we have to solve these ethical issues. If we are not able to solve those ethical issues, then those products and solutions which are going to come to the market might not yield the required result, right? That's the reason why a lot of big companies, organizations, government organizations, private sector organizations are trying to form up a framework to kind of identify the ethical building blocks, or the way the artificial intelligence framework has to be created, so that it can be trusted and it yields only good results for humanity, right? So that is what we are going to see in the next slides, and these are the various ethical dimension which I want to you to kind of think over when we have this. And again, this is a open content from the World Economic Forum, where they have kind of had this. And again, a lot of working groups in US and European Union have also got a working group where they have devised a special expert committee who are looking into the angle of using AI in an ethical way. And if you are building it in an ethical way, what are the fundamental building blocks and what is the framework? You have to have it in mind. So we'll see about that in the upcoming slide, right? And now we are, after all these ethical issues which I highlighted, the way forward is to use AI in a responsible way, AI using an AI in a responsible way. And how does a responsible way kind of gather into? So the responsible way gather into two branches. One is identifying the problems, and the second one is creating a logical solution for it. So how are we kind of identifying the problems? The first thing is like, what is a business use case for developing the AI product or the solution? First thing is that you should have an experimentation. And in experimentation, it's very important that you supply a good amount of data set to it so that it process it. When you're supplying the data set, then you kind of have your own internal bias. For example, if I am developing a AI product or a solution, and they say that, okay, you're designing it, please go ahead and design Ganesan. So I start my design, and I have to supply the test values so that the AI product can start learning. So when I supply the test product, I would be obviously giving, okay, the name of the person. So I would give all my South Indians, North Indians, or Indian names. I wouldn't try to give a name from a South American continent or an Australian continent. So that is nothing like a bias where the demographics I come in from. So I already have a design bias or a training data bias or the response bias. So that is very important, right? So when you are designing the solution, there shouldn't be an experimental bias. And societal bias is very important, where because of the solution, is there is going to be a loss of opportunity, or will there be an economic loss to people or a process or to an organization? What would be a society impact, overall society impact, and what will be the loss to the liberty, like free speech, or whatever loss to the fundamental constitution, like whatever we have. So the societal bias and experimental bias are very important consideration before we kind of start evaluating the product or a solution. And then you enter into the design phase. When you enter into a design phase, first thing, you should have an enhanced judgment. You should have a neutral view how this product is going to solve the business problem without creating impact in ethical dimension. And collaboration, you should have a diverse team who work on this project so that they bring in all the ideas and values to the table. and then the human and the AI interaction. What actions are done to be by the human, what AI has to do, and when human can intervene. That has to be clearly documented in a use case, and it has to be implemented. And try to get a diverse team of people, not from a region or from a geography. So you will have a biased view of what we are developing, right? It should be an universal solution to the problem. And machine intelligence plus human values should be always embedded into the design of the solution. And then once you start the design, then you need to have an overall agile governance. There we talk about culture, how the culture of the teams there, and what is the compliance, because when you develop these products, you are dealing with a lot of security issues, data privacy issues, and other issues. How are you compliant with the law of the land, and how do you address the issues, and once you fix it, how do you readdress these issues? So these are the very important building blocks anyone should consider when you are developing an AI product or a solution, right? So how do we do it? First angle is shifting our mentality from fixer to the growth mindset. So don't focus, I think, saying that, okay, if I'm doing more and more automation, all the current jobs would kind of go out and people are in trouble. Change the impression, saying that, okay, these jobs are going to go out, but you create new jobs by having a role like an AI engineer or a control room specialist. So those are new job roles which are part of this AI. So how we can reskill people and make people to move to those jobs. So that should be a very important way to think about AI. And building trust and transparency, right? So if you're developing a product or a solution, make it very transparent, the way how it has been developed. Test in all angles before deployment, and try to gain the trust of the end customer or a user by giving them a kind of a beta testing or an alpha testing, so they test and they give their exact results. And again, privacy and regulation, please respect the privacy and regulation. For customer experience, don't collect as much as data, saying that, okay, if I collect all these data, my customer experience will be superior. So we have to have a proper reason for what data field we are collecting, because most of the data we collect are all personally identifiable data, personally identifiable information, and the regulation and the law of land is very important. And inclusion and diversity, okay, so that the product can be used by people across continents or across geographies. Don't design products and solution where it can only understand an English accent of a particular country or a particular region, kind of a thing. It should be uniformly used, right? And again, AI should not be in the hands of you. It should be widely available to everyone. So again, the common problems which we see in the AI solutions, or the way forward, is the biasing, the drifting, and again, if there is going to be a consequence or an incident, how we are handling it, and making AI to be available only to the very required people, not to the wider audience. So these are the kind of a common mistakes which currently happen in the current AI products and solutions, where we see the products are kind of targeted for one market and one segment, and it is not available for all, right? So when you're developing AI, please take all these parameters into your mind, right? And then let's kind of quickly come into it. So I talked about the dimension, and I talked about what is a responsible way. So how to convert this responsible way into a real world implementation. So this is something called as a trustworthy framework, AI trustworthy framework. This has been an outcome of European Union Commission on, they had a special expert committee group who worked on artificial intelligence, and they proposed this particular framework, which can be used by organizations across the world when they are having AI products and services, right? So what is a trustworthy AI? From the top, the first thing is that it should be lawful. uh, uh, the robot or the AI product should not do any activity which is unlawful, and ethical. Moreover, the ethical principles and the guidelines, right? And it should be a robust AI. It should not be bits and pieces. So it should be robust. And then what are the fundamental foundations for the AI? So they have added 4 ethical principles as foundation. The ethical principles: respect human autonomy. So what humans do, what they do, and prevention of harm at any cost. It should not harm any human being or any other living being for that matter. And it should be fair and transparent, right? So if you're talking about AI solutions like gaming and all, so how fairness has to be treated, it should be fair. And it should be explicitability, like uh, the human should be able to understand why the machine behaved that way. So the explicit clause or the nature should be there. So these are the four ethical principles. If you are developing a product or a solution, you should introspect your product against these principles, whether your product meet this principle or not. If it is not, then you have to kind of redesign it accordingly. And then realization of trustworthy AI. You already have a AI solution built in. How do you do a kind of a mapping to the key requirements? The first thing for the AI product or service to operate is you should have a human oversight. The AI should not be left independent forever. There should be an adequate human oversight on top of it. So you say that, okay, I deploy a bot and I remove job of 5 people. But again, for having the bot, you should have 2 people to monitor what the bot does. So don't remove just 5 people and then forget about these 2 people who have to monitor the bot. Next thing is technical robustness and safety. It should be robust, it should be safe and secure. If the robot is touching people, or if the bot is touching the people's services, or if it has been deployed even in online or offline mode. Privacy and data governance. It collects a lot of data, how the data is collected, how the data is processed and governed. Transparency should be there, as I already listed in the ethical principles. It should support diversity, non-discrimination, and fairness. It should be fair, right? In some of the Western world, we have seen some of the robots behaved fairly sometimes, and they talked about racist statements and things like that, right? So that can never happen if someone has wrongly made the robot or the AI solution learn those sentences or languages. So it is very important that the robot or the AI solution should be kind of treated, and it should learn about diversity and non-discrimination and not disrespecting anyone, right? The next one is societal environmental well-being. Like, it should not impact the society or environmental parameters or things like that. And finally, there should be an accountability of the actions of the particular bot or the AI solution, right? That is very important. So again, these key requirements, whatever the 7 key requirements, can be again boiled down into technical methods and non-technical methods, business processes, and then it can be converted into controls and it can be implemented. And finally, you should have an bottom level assessment of that particular solution. So against the foundation, against the realization, you should have an assessment, proper assessment. Before the AI product or a solution reaches the market, there should be a proper assessment or an audit done with this particular framework, and whether it checked all the boxes, so that when you are delivering that product or solution, it fits into the market, and so that it doesn't have an ethical issue or a kind of an adverse issue which can impact your organization. So this assessment piece is very important. So for building this particular framework block, you have foundations where you have 4 key ethical principles. Then you have realization in your design. How do you have the 7 key requirements built into your product design, and how are you doing that? And finally, you have your assessment of your artificial intelligence solution. How do you assess against it? So these are the healthier building blocks of AI framework. And tomorrow, if you have a chance to do a assessment, or even if there is going to be an incident, you want to go as an investigator, at that time you have to look back into this framework as well and see where the real gap happened, right? So that when you present your report, you can always point out to the root cause, right? Having that said in mind, let's quickly go into the life cycle of the AI, right? Life cycle of AI, how it evolves in. The first stage where it happens, and this is more from a technology angle. First thing is like get the business use case, get the rights, principles, values, and take the 7 requirements of trustworthy AI, which is mentioned in the last slide. Bring into technical and non-technical methods, develop the business process and the design accordingly. Then kind of start your development, start using it, analyze and do a test, and then based on the test outcome, if there are deficiencies, again do a redesign and then kind of do it. So this is a simple system life cycle. So we have seen life cycle, software development life cycle, how do we build a software. Similarly, this is a system life cycle, how we build up an AI product or a solution, where you take all the fundamentals of the AI trustworthy framework, then you develop, use, test again, address the gaps, fix the problems, and then again start the development again. So this is a continuous life cycle. Moving on, when we do this particular activity, when you're doing designing and testing, so AI involves a lot of concepts around learning, right? You have to train the bot or train the AI product or solution. So for the training, you have to use large number of data sets. So when you are kind of giving the data sets, please ensure that the data set what we provide is more diverse. Don't focus on a data set which is specific to a geography or specific to a location or specific to a country, right? So it should be broad enough so that the entire gamut can be into the scope, right? And you have to give the right set of training data, right? The right set of training data is there, and whatever training data is being supplied, that has to be tested by at least 2 or 3 independent reviewers, so that there is no bias when it is being inputted, because the training data is again given by a human being and he can be biased. So to kind of have a fair and transparent method, 2 or 3 people has to properly review the training data set and kind of input the training data. Then based on the source data, then you decide the algorithm. So when you are designing the algorithm plays a key role because it takes the data in. An algorithm will tell what activities to do and what is the output to be given out of that AI product or solution. So the algorithm should also be built on the key AI trustworthy AI principles, like it should be ethical, it should be transparent, you should not have any backdoors in your algorithm, and the way the algorithm works, the coding also should directly reflect that. So it involves a greater synergy of that business analyst or the project manager and the developer and the tester to sit together, understand all use cases, understand whether the core algorithm or the logic of the program is always ethical and right. And then when it comes to outcome, how the outcome is measured, and if the outcome is causing any harm to the human being or environment, and if there is going to be a consequence, how are you going to manage the consequence? So this is very important. So IO is nothing but input output, I slash O, what I have mentioned in the top. So the input output is the core processing engine, where I want to emphasize the point that how do you give the training data, how do you kind of create the correct algorithm so that you process it properly, and how is the outcome you're going to pour out, right? So AI IO is very important, and we have to use the core foundation trustworthy AI framework to derive at this. And what is an overall system lifecycle things? If you're a program manager or a manager, IT management, how do you kind of, what are the various areas you have to focus on? The first area is human agency and oversight. Oversight, as I told you already, technical robustness and safety, privacy and data governance, have transparency, diversity should be the key, societal and environmental well-being, it should not impact the environment or society, and finally the accountability of actions, whatever being developed. So this should be a core part of the system lifecycle. And again, AI product and solution is not a single time activity. It is a cycle. You keep on producing new products or you provide enhancement to the existing products. So it is a continuous journey or continuous cycle, and this cycle will evolve till you have new and new products altogether, right? So with that, kind of, I just want to kind of pause for a moment where we kind of saw everything, so that if I can take 1 or 2 questions now, I can take it up. Otherwise, I have some couple of interesting case studies where we can see how the AI really works and how people think about it. Can I take up some questions, sir? Vijay Srinivas, sir, can we have some questions, or we'll take out towards the end?
I think we can take it at the end. Probably case studies should be much interesting. So please, if you can continue.
Sure. Okay, thanks. So let's, without any further ado, let's quickly go into a case study, right? So I have a case study here, which is about a chatbot, right? So what we learned about AI and trustworthy AI kind of a thing. I'm just kind of presenting a scenario. So this crowd is more of investigators and people who are doing more of investigation, right? So let's kind of quickly have an interesting case study where we have a chatbot now, and the chatbot has become a rogue, right? Like a rogue agent kind of a thing, right? So this is a chatbot in an online retailer. The online retailer has got a website, and a beautiful website where people can order, customers, partners can order goods kind of a thing. And because of so much of automation, the retailer has put a chatbot on his website, and this chatbot is primarily used to solve customer queries, partner queries, and things like that. It is fed up with a good amount of intelligence or frequently asked questions and things like that, so that it can instantly respond. It is placed for convenience, right? But what happened on one fine day, the chatbot went very rogue, and it answered very badly to the customers with foul language, gave some inaccurate information, and that particular information was taken by the customer and shared it with the social media of that particular organization, and escalation went to the CEO and the management, and it became a bigger embarrassment. The chatbot went like that. right? Now this is the case, right? Now as a senior management or an investigator, you are an investigator to that organization. So what do you consider now? What will you do now with the chatbot went rogue, right? From an incident response angle, think from an incident response angle, think from an internal and external investigation angle, think from an organization reputational angle, because it's a big online retailer, and what is the legal consequence of it, the legal angle around it, right? So I have created a Menti code. You can see the Menti code at the bottom of my screen. The code number is 9582804, or you can even use any of your mobile phones scanning application, and you can scan this QR code. It will automatically take you to the questions. So I'm just repeating. You have the Menti code 9582804. So just go to the survey so that you have a couple of questions for you to answer that, and we can discuss your response, so that let's see whether we are aligned in the right path or not, right? So I'm just giving you another couple of 10 seconds for people to go to the Menti code, or you can scan the QR code from your mobile phone.
I request all the participants to participate actively in this survey.
I'll just give another 5 more seconds so that we can go to the response and see what people have responded. All right. So I have seen 77, 80 responses. So I'm just giving another 10 seconds so that we get the maximum number of inputs as much as possible.
I think people might go with the majority. So
yeah.
Are you giving any prize?
No, I think ACFE Hyderabad chapter will give the prize, sir.
Ganesh Ramani coming is a prize for us, and you want him to give a prize. What is it?
Yeah.
Yes, Ganesh, you have to protest that. Thank you for coming over, coming to interact with us.
Good. I think we have seen a lot of responses. I got around 119 responses and still counting, 120. Okay.
Let it be. Let them give another 2 seconds. The enthusiasm which they are participating is more important than answer.
Yeah. So I'll give another 10 seconds. Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. So I think a very good kind of a point. I think 129 people have responded as we speak at that moment. So I think most of you have got the actions very right? It's very straightforward. People said the top priority for me, I would take the chat bot down. Please ask the IT team to shut down the chat bot. Then start the internal investigation. Involve the IT teams to find the issue with the chatbot, why this chatbot behaved very weirdly, and then finally issue a media statement to customers and partners. So this is the fourth popularly voted sequence, so which is perfectly fine in real world. But again, I have some small kind of a tweaking to it, right? The first thing is like first priority would be for me is start the investigation initially, start the investigation, and then the second might be take the chatbot down, and then the third might be bring in the IT team, and before bringing the IT team, just ask the IT team what is the reason, and then issuing a media statement is very much important. So I think people got the sequence right, but maybe what I would do in my view is I would take the number 2 into number 1 and number 1 into number 2, and 3 and 4 are perfectly fine. So this is very important for us. this, like because these are common scenarios which can happen. It has happened in the past. I don't want to name the organization. Last year it happened to one of the organization, but again it is a kind of a more coming scenarios, and we have to be, as investigators and as security professional, we have to be knowing about the scenarios, and we should know, and we should have a good run book how to kind of parse this information, right?
Wonderful.
So let me go to the next question. Of what is the
Before we go, Ganeshan,
yes sir.
my colleague from CBI, Satish, is there. Like me, he also, we liked the word investigation because we do that. Correct to start investigation immediately. He likes priority to second question first, and first question second. Satish also liked it.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Because investigation should be the first one to kickstart, and then we can go with the sequence. Yeah.
Otherwise, sorry, there is a reason for that. Without initiating official investigation, you will be opening Pandora box and permitting every chat box to be taken down internally. That will result in further fraud.
Yeah, that will result in further fraud, and it will be a reputational risk to your organization also. Maybe the chatbot could have been gone wrong for a particular period, and then it could have behaved normally, and you will never know whether it is an intermittent issue or a permanent issue.
Yes, sir.
Without analyzing. Yeah. And the next way is like, how do you handle the reputational risk for the organization? The reputational risk, I think a lot of people have given a lot of answers. So disclaimer might not be a right thing to do, but again, involving the legal and marketing team is very important. Making the people aware what they are doing is important. And I liked the answer of by issuing an apology. So apology is very important. Media statement and apology is important because your customer has been treated with a foul language. So apology is the need of the hour. At least you should first apologize. And I like it, that answer. And people have said, I'll bring the chatbot down to prevent further damage and do a root cause analysis, which is a very proper incident response you have to do. And identify and communicate to the specific customers, and to handle it in high priority. Accept the failure first, and be transparent, and involve public relations. These are very good. Honestly admit the reason. Most of the organizations are not upfront and honest, so that's a good answer. We have to do that. And be transparent is very important. And so I think a lot of people talked about transparency, being apologetic, and try to understand the root cause of the incident and how do you handle that. So these are very important things. And again, bringing the management up to speed, right? That is very important. Management has to be aware, because they may not be aware about, they are not aware about the code, what code of chatbot is done, and someone has kind of bypassed the access management control.
Ganeshan,
they are not
questions
interested
are there.
in technical stuff. Yeah.
You have to take questions.
Yeah, sure.
Time is running out.
Yeah, sure, sir. So these are the critical stuff which you kind of think over when you kind of bring this parameters in, right? So with that, I'm kind of just closing this voting and exiting this survey. And then I have one more interesting scenario before I summarize and wrap up. I have 5 minutes of my time, right? This is another case study which is also very interesting. People can take a look into it. This is about video surveillance, which is very quite common in current world. So you can see this scenario is about a multinational pharmaceutical company who have got research labs around the world. And they have deployed the state-of-art video surveillance system in the entrance of their labs. Who is coming in, who is going out, to monitor them with. They have a deep, true video analytics and other stuff. So what has happened after they have deployed this project? A couple of months, 1 month later, in the social media and in the dark web, the details of the scientists, staff, their hand gestures, how they are entering in, photo, and everything, all the data got leaked out. So this has become a bigger embarrassment to the pharmaceutical organization. So as a senior management or an investigator, what do you do, right? What do you do? I have got a couple of questions, and you can use the same Menti, 8864872. The Menti code is there, or you can scan the QR code and we can quickly go over there and see what you think about it. This is about a video surveillance.
Ganeshan, could I request to take a few questions, because we have the next session also lined up, and
yeah, sure. Okay, sir. Okay.
Event time is not possible for the kind of subject what you're dealing with. So
Yeah, I understand the timing.
yeah,
Okay, so I think people can take this one offline and we'll try to
yeah.
understand
Offline
it.
they can
Yeah,
probably
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we can
And just
summarize
give me
it.
1 minute, and I'll quickly summarize my session, and I'll open the floor for questions, for
Great.
sure.
Ganesh,
Right?
I request PPT. So everybody is asking for PPT. Please
Yeah, yeah,
share with
yeah. I've already shared it with you, sir. Maybe you can circulate it with the team
yeah.
later. Yeah. Okay, so I'll quickly summarize. Just give me a minute. I'll quickly summarize, and I'm opening the floor for questions. So, uh, my quick summary about this trustworthy AI, right? So AI is currently in its evolution stage, right? And it is an evolution, and you cannot stop this evolution like a human evolution which happened in the world. AI is going to kind of come up, and it is going to persist, right? So we cannot avoid it. So please don't think that okay, AI can be completely stopped, or we should not go with AI by considering the disadvantage. There are a lot of advantages of using AI. The second important summary point is design AI solution with humanity dimension. So, which is very much missing with our technology people. So, bringing the angle of humanities, right, which is very important. And the third important thing is like address ethical issues throughout the life cycle when you are building a product or a service. If you see an ethical issue in developing and during the development, please stop and address it and have a good agile governance in managing it, right? It should be very dynamic. It's not a straightforward governance what we do. You should have governance at every bits and pieces, right? And it should be very dynamic. And design IT and process controls with traceability, right? Because something happens bad tomorrow, you should understand what is the source or the root, right? So the control should be designed in such a way that you are able to trace what happened, who did it, and have a proper incident response plan. What and all can go wrong if you're having an AI product or a solution? Whether it might be a chatbot or a video camera, you should be prepared for all possible worst scenarios. Have a good incident response plan. Test the incident response plan internally so that when a real incident kicks in, you will not have any issues or trouble, and you will be able to sail it through without any issues. Right. So with that, I'm summing up my session, and I am now opening the floor for questions. Any questions, I can take
Yeah,
it up, sir.
there are quite a number of questions to be
Yeah,
precise, but
please. Yeah.
what I thought is I'll filter those which are relevant, more apt for the session what we are taking today. So, first question I'll be taking from Prakar Gupta. Says, hello Ganeshan, as we are in current times of working from home or remote working, the emphasis and dependence on AI ML has increased to conduct analysis and help in audit, monitoring and compliance areas as well. How do you see the role of professionals changing to make a better use of the technology?
Yeah, I think professionals should be able to understand this new technology. Try to automate the low priority activities which doesn't have an impact to human or anything else. So if you're having a report filling, or if you're filling a form daily, so those kind of activities you can automate it, and you can use AI solutions and bots or robotic process automation to do it. So as professional, we have to understand the technology, and we can use this technology for low hanging fruits, which is really what we should do now. Than solving complex problems, try to start from basics, and we can use it so that we save a lot of time and effort in doing this repeatable task, which will not have a greater impact. Yes, sir. You can go to the
I
next
have
question.
one more. Intellectual property issues related to AI is also an ethical issue. So, what are
Yeah.
your views on that? This is from Pendiala.
Yes,
So,
sir. So IPR is very important. If you see the AI trustworthy AI framework, the bottom part I have mentioned about the assessment. When you do a comprehensive assessment, including the technology part, if there is going to be any IPR being violated, that has to be assessed. So the current risk managers, and the audit professionals, when you are auditing or assessing an AI product or a solution, please have this question in mind: whether are we violating any patent or copyright of some other organization in our existing product or solution. If so, we have to stop it and alert the management accordingly, because there has been a lot of effort in getting IPR on these particular AI products and solutions by
ತರ
other
ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ
organizations, and we should
ತರ
respect that.
ತರ
Yeah, yeah,
మాట్లాడతాను
so
yeah.
one
So
last.
that's the answer.
ఎవరిది
Yeah.
నేను ತರ చెప్తాను నాకు
Dharma Gakini.
నేను మాట్లాడాలి ఇప్పుడు ತರ మాట్లాడతాను
One last question, Ganeshan sir.
Yes,
From
sir.
Srinivas Guram, role of AI for anti-fraud in the IT systems implemented so far. So, you just want to have an idea of what have been implemented so far when it comes to AI for anti.
Sir, I think I can give you a big use case in e-commerce, sir. In e-commerce, a lot of companies like PayPal, even Amazon, they have got their AI solutions for anti-fraud, because if they're able, so for example, if you can see every 3 months or 6 months, they will say that Flipkart or Amazon found a kind of a bogus user who is ordering stuff, returning it, or selling it for thing. So how they are finding it out? They are finding out using this AI products only. So there are a lot of startup companies also who have got analytics capabilities. Using data analytics capability in e-commerce, they are identifying the frauds. And AI is the base of it. So you train the AI using the AI engine, the product gets trained and it passes the data set and it finds what are the fraudulent transactions, and that fraudulent transactions are red flagged so that the human user reviews it. And if there is going to be an element of fraud, then investigators and other people are involved in. All the e-commerce like PayPal, Amazon, Flipkart, they already have this AI solution inbuilt in their e-commerce engines for sure.
Okay.
Thanks, Ganeshan sir, for your time. There are quite a few questions. As I said, probably we can share you with you offline, and we'll try to respond to the attendees with the replies what you give. So
Thank you, sir.
I request our GCS Sharma Garu to take over and present his vote. Thanks to the Ganeshan Ramani. Thank you.
Thank you, Ganeshan Ramani. You are actually an asset for Hyderabad ACFE, because you are not new to this community. Already last time also you were there along with us, and you are not new to Hyderabad itself, because you were earlier you were our board member in our ISACA Hyderabad also. And what I can say about you, because we have shared, both of us, a lot of sessions for all the universities, for all IT professors on cybersecurity. You are a master. I know that you have a lot of knowledge in the cybersecurity as well as artificial intelligence. Today, you wonderfully covered all issues on ethical issues on AI, coming to framework or life cycle, or all the case studies what you've taken. They're all eye openers for us.
And in simple language, Simple
language, and a layman can understand what Ganeshan Ramani actually is expressing about the artificial intelligence. Okay, I think, thanks a lot for actually giving your time for us, because yesterday also you were busy with the ISACA CACS conference, which was very, very important for Chennai chapter. But today again, you've taken your time to help us, to educate us on ethical issues on artificial intelligence. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Ganeshan Ramani.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, ACFE Hyderabad board. Thanks, Sharma sir, Sharat sir, and everyone.
One word from me. Some of the non-members, they have given me personal message saying that though it's a technology subject, he has dealt it in a very lucid and simple language so that we could understand the subject very well. That is what I got, some messages, personal messages.
Yeah, many members complimented Radhakrishnan. Many members complimented.
Many members.
Thank you, sir.